Hello, my name is Owen, and welcome to a quick review of Daphne du Maurier's Frenchman's Creek. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book's about, tell you the things I liked and tell you the things that I didn't like, jumping straight into it. For those of you that don't know, or for those of you that do know, Daphne du Maurier is one of my favorite authors of all time, okay? I've only read 4 of her books before this one, those being Rebecca, My Cousin Rachel, Jamaica Inn, and The House on the Strand. I read them in that order as well. That's how good my memory is. My Cousin Rachel is one of my favorite books of all time. I thought Rebecca was fantastic, and I thought Jamaica Inn was very good. I thought The House on the Strand was very bad. I read that earlier this year. That being said, that did not deter me from putting her on my top authors of my favorites of all time in the 2024 edition, because that's how much I liked her works that I liked. I liked them that much, okay? Frenchman's Creek, I was excited to get back into it. It's one of her vintage books. She wrote it in the 40s. I think House on the Strand was a little bit newer, it was in the 60s. Maybe there's a correlation there, maybe not. But I was excited to get back into it, and let me tell you, spoiler alert, I loved this book. Although it is a little bit different from her other books that I really liked as well. I feel like Rebecca, My Cousin Rachel, Jamaica Inn kind of had the underlying suspense, tension, horror vibe, the kind of stories that obviously Alfred Hitchcock was inspired by. A lot of his movies were based on Daphne du Maurier's work, like Jamaica Inn. The Birds is based on one of her short stories. And reading those books, there's a sprinkle of romance in most of those, but it's really about like our main character's in danger. There's a mystery. There's an air of maybe not confusion, but we don't know all the pieces, right? And our character is in danger, but we don't know where the danger is coming from. And is it going to strike? And is our character in danger? And it just unfolds from there. Frenchman's Creek, however, is a romance through and through. Follows our main character, Donna, as she flees London. She flees a loveless marriage to the English countryside. But in the countryside, there's a Frenchman running amok. And he's a pirate. And let me tell you something. He's a hunky pirate. He's handsome. He's suave. He's charming. And let me tell you, I understood why. I understood why this was a romance, ladies and gentlemen. And there's moments of tension. There is moments of that suspense, but this is a romance through and through, right? It's Donna fleeing a loveless marriage. It's the charming pirate. It's the will they, won't they. And spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, they do a little bit, okay? Okay, at least a little bit. I'm not going to say any more. And let me tell you, it worked perfectly. It worked perfectly. I like to dabble among a lot of genres. Romance is one of the genres I like to dabble into. And I always say this. The most important thing about a romance book is that both romantic interests, you need to be buying into them. And what does that mean? They're all Fabios running around? Not necessarily, okay? But you have to believe that these characters work together and they both have to be interesting in their own right? Emily Henry is a romance author I read a lot of. Her best books are when both of her characters are firing on all cylinders. Her most recent book, however, the girl was fine. The guy was like, oh, he's got a beard and he's really nice. Okay, and I snooze at that. I don't believe it, right? I'm not interested. Not saying that I need to be attracted to all the characters in a romance book, but if I don't get it, if I don't see it, the entire concept of the book falls apart. But from the instant the Frenchman pirate walks on screen with his strut, and you know he just has that look like, I don't know if maybe that was the look that I'm trying to convey here, but he's just kind of got the like, yeah, like, really? You're gonna mess with me? I'm a pirate, right? He's got that swagger, and that's all I got to say about it. He's charming. He's got the wit, and fully complementary to that, our main character, while imperfect, and I think that's something du Maurier does very, very well, is creating these well-rounded, realistic characters that have their flaws. Her flaws perfectly are complemented by the strengths of the pirate, and her flaws are what draws him to his rebellious nature. But she's got a wit of her own. She's got her zinger moments, and she's got her moments where she shines, where she turns on the charm, and she uses her wiles to get what she wants. But and let me just tell you something too. Going back on her character work, I feel like more than any other author, or maybe not any other author, but her characters feel so grounded and they feel so realistic. It's not like, they never once feel like the author is orchestrating this conversation or orchestrating this series of events. She's creating these fully formed characters and she's dropping them into this world that she knows very well, the English countryside in a specific period of time, right? All of her books are set around the same time, in the same setting, and she knows it like the back of her hand. And it's just like, she creates these fully formed characters and drops them in there. And even the characters, like, she's in a loveless marriage, right? But the husband's not the villain. He's just kind of a floppy fish flopping around, right? He's just kind of a lame-o. He doesn't really have, like, he doesn't have the charm, and he's everything that the pirate Frenchman is not, which makes you understand why she's so attracted to the pirate and not to her husband. But also, like, she has the moments where it's like you kind of feel bad for the husband because he's not a bad guy, he's just kind of a lame-o, right? And I think that all like interplays perfectly as well, because it's not, although the romance is the through line of this book, it is really the heart and soul of it. It's also about the main character and her feeling trapped in her role as a mother and as a wife and as a Londoner, then as like a countryside noblewoman, and her rebellious nature perfectly like leads her to the rebellious nature of a pirate. Perhaps a more dramatic example of rebellion, right? It's her lashing out in a lot of ways against her flaws, against things that are holding her back, which leads her into this romance, right? And they complement each other so well, but the author is diving into the fact that it's like, well, she is a mother and she brought her kids to this countryside. And what does that mean? Like, can she be a good mother, but also like have her own dreams and goals, especially in this world where gender roles are very traditional, right? And du Maurier is not writing like a glass ceiling breaking novel where it's like, oh, like, screw my kids, I'm not a mother anymore. No, being a mother is a fantastic thing, right? And the main character loves being a mother and she loves her children, but she also has this urge to abandon them and abandon her family. And it's just, she's not perfect. She makes mistakes. She's too cold sometimes. She's too brash sometimes. And it makes her a worse mother, but it also makes her a more interesting character. And I think that really that's what I gravitated to first as well, because I'm not saying it's easier, but maybe it is a little bit easier to write the suave, charming pirate, right? Who every scene, every dialogue is like, oh, this guy, he's just got it oozing, right? He's got it oozing out of his veins. Everything he says is so handsome, right? But making this flawed protagonist, and I think du Maurier does this very, very well. I think she did it very, very well in My Cousin Rachel as well with our main character. I forget his name, but the guy in that one, where it's just their weaknesses, their insecurities play perfectly into the plot and make you almost like them more because of how deeply we know their flaws and the things that they aren't so good at and the things that makes their life harder. And there are some great moments where there are, like, maybe not stereotypical villains, but easier characters to root against, especially in the latter half of the story, when like the conflict comes in of this pirate being chased down by these people he's robbing. And I just think it all plays so well. It's a short book. It's just over like 250 pages. It goes quickly, and it's got the drama. It's got the heartache. It's got the passion. It's got all the moments that you're looking for in a romance book, and it's got a little bit of swashbuckling action as well. Obviously, du Maurier is not like an action writer, so there's not like cannonballs flying around, people getting killed left and right, but there are moments of high tension, especially towards the climax. And I'm not saying it's my favorite book of hers, but it might be number 2, right? It's knocking on the door of My Cousin Rachel. The only reason I think it doesn't surpass it maybe is the ending. While I understand it, like I said, du Maurier is not an action-packed writer. She's not a dramatic explosion writer, right? Her conclusions all come down to humanity, and I think it's perfect thematically, but it all wraps up a little too quickly for my liking and maybe a little too neatly. I wish we could have expanded that a little bit more, maybe been a little bit longer, and that's what takes it down to number 2 spot, whereas My Cousin Rachel, I feel like, had the tension and it paid off in like a way, but really, her character work in this one is absolutely sublime, I say, and there's really no weaknesses I found in this book. I didn't find it dragged. I thought every aspect of the character, and one thing too, talking about Donna, the main character again, I love that in the beginning of the book, I didn't like her at all. I thought that she was too rude. I thought that she was too angry. She was just taking her anger out on everybody that she met, and I'm like, who is this unlikable piece of crap that we're going to be following for this entire book? But du Maurier knows that. And it plays perfectly into it, because then we reveal, like, well, maybe why is she like this? Why does she feel so contained? Why is she lashing out like a caged animal, right? And then she kind of like unfurls throughout the book. It's just fantastic. It's a masterclass on writing a main character in a romance book, right? Because a lot of modern romances, they have their relationship with the main character, which is the heart and soul, like I said, but the main character always has to have some drama, right? Or maybe the love interest has some like family drama, right? And that's present in this book, but it's just a masterclass of like how it should be done and how it's done realistically without feeling like it's imposing upon the romance. It plays directly into the romance. That is why the romance occurs. That is why they make such a good couple, is because of the character stuff behind it, rather than the other way around, if that makes any sense at all. Overall, though, a fantastic book, I say. A fantastic book, I say. got my stamp of approval. And be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more like in the future. If you have any more du Maurier recommendations, that's like one of her great works. I have a feeling like her other stuff maybe isn't as good because I feel like I read all like the titles of Daphne du Maurier, right? But I want to know, is there one I haven't read that you really enjoy? Because I absolutely want to check it out. She's one of my favorite authors of all time. And as always, thank you for sticking around.